fly so high, so far, free, so free. You set the fire, light the sky, spirit, one with me. You stand by the ocean, your eyes, everything. Spiders of your emotions can constant spring. Yet in all your might and glory, vanished from the sky. It's just another story. Man-made life. They tell how you fell from the sky.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. My guest today is Dr. HarrellRhome. Hello, Harrell. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. It's too hot down here in South Texas, but we're doing well.
We've got an old saying for you. If you don't like the weather, wait a minute.
Yeah, but this time of the year it more stays hot than not, I'm afraid. Hope you're having a good day where you are.
It's always hot in Tucson, but yeah, I'm having a good day. Harrell, give me a little bit of your background. Now, I know you've been reading my Free American magazine for a lot of years. I've been reading your stuff for a lot of years. I've got links to GnosticLiberationFront.com. And let's start right there. Gnostic. Gnostic.
Yes, that is the name that I am not webmaster of the site. It's founded by another fellow, and he is of the Gnostic Christian beliefs, and which is mystical Christianity. A lot of people don't realize that when the Romans took over the church circa 325 AD, that a lot happened in 300 years before that. It looks like when you research the matter that most of the early Christians were Gnostic believers. That is, they believed that by studying the Bible, studying God, that you gained a special knowledge, in Greek that is gnosis, and that was what led you on to be with the Lord. So it's a mystical Christian movement, still exists.
Now, I've referred to the fact that we're kind of in a battle. There's three religions vying for top dog here, and the Christian religion. I mean, people we talk about that a lot. Fear of the Muslims, fear of the Jews. And we got 2,000 years of history of followers of Jesus are being persecuted. But the church...
They certainly are. I call the Islam, Christianity, and Judaism the three Semitic religions, because they all come out of the same basis and all that from the so-called Old Testament. But they are religions that certainly are not at peace with one another and really never have been.
Well, they're vying for control, and it seems like all of them are vying for control of the world, a global government. I mean, that's been the plan for, our founding fathers fought the New World Order of their day. The, sun never sets on the English Empire. And they don't have the power that they want you to think they have, do they, Harrell? Because if they did, we'd still be under the Syrian Empire. We would have been under the Roman Empire.
We would have been, and you and I would have been burned at the stake or something horrible like that, I'm sure. But no, the big government has always been around, and we call it New World Order now, but it was called Holy Roman Empire, it was called the British Empire, it was called many things. And at the heart of all that is apparently a group of people who really want to rule the rest of the world.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, what? Go ahead. I cannot hear you.
That's all right. Go ahead. I was just agreeing with you. Yes, they want to rule the world.
Oh, okay.
It's a plan for a one-world government. Always has been. The protocols of the Elders of Zion. They want to call you anti-Semitic and say it's a forgery, but it's 200 years old. It describes what's happening today, and it describes a plan for a one-world government, doesn't it?
I've always said that that's the most enlightening book, and it's interesting when you give it to someone who has never really, maybe not hardly heard of it or seen it before. You give it to them, and quite often, they look at it, and one of the first things they say is, well, this seems to be about stuff that's happening right now. And of course, they're very, very correct about that. The protocols are a most dreaded document. The Zionists, the Rothschild people, all of that, they try to suppress it as much as they can today, as they always did. And it's still out. If you have not read the protocols, get it and take a look at it. It's available online. A lot of different places you can download ebooks with all the protocols in there. And it will astound you that how much of that is either already taken place or in process, going on, and perhaps concluding soon. We hope not. But yes, it is a most interesting document. It's highly subversive to what we call New World Order, Illuminati, whatever you want to call the global planners.
They go by a lot of different names, and, you know, one of the things I've said, Harrell, the problem we've got today is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? This plan for one world government is evil. I think everybody would agree on that. But they think, you know, the press, and they control the press, the elite, the people that control the factories, the people that, what do you call it, communism, fascism, you know, or totalitarianism. It's all the same thing, and they just hide behind different groups. Well, they hide behind the Muslims, they hide behind the Jews, and they damn sure hide behind the Christians. I'm starting to think that maybe the deception that, you know, is the motto of the Mossad, maybe it goes back a lot further than we ever could even imagine. What if the Bible was written more as a plan, just like the protocols of the Elders of Zion, but you know, with a lot of good stuff thrown in there. But once the words of Jesus were uttered and transcribed, the churches that have been moving in, like the Catholic Church, you know, conquering the Incas, conquering the Mayans, stealing all their gold, and we've been decimating native peoples for ever since we've been in this country.
I'm glad to hear you mention that, because definitely that is the truth. When you look back into the New Testament and what we have left that it says about Jesus, you see that he, as much as anything else, was a pacifist. Even when he was being arrested in the garden at night, he forbade his followers to do any harm to the Romans and Jews that had come to arrest him. There's no record that he ever, quote-unquote, made war of any sort. So Christianity in the beginning was apparently a pacifistic, peaceful religion, but it's certainly not anymore. Yet you say it conquered the world. The various countries I visited way back during the 70s and 80s down in Central America and all, they devastated those countries. And killed all the people and did their most to destroy the ancient religions that were there. And you know about this, and you know about how that it's the Christian religion, particularly the back then the Roman Catholic version of it, that sent armed forces all over the world to, quote-unquote, discover things. Of course, discovering meant that you take them over and loot whatever resources you can get from them. Now our history as a the Christian culture has some very ugly spots in it. You're very correct about that.
Now, in the novels that I started over 40 years ago, the character that I chose to write about, maybe this is just a coincidence, synchronicity. The character I chose to write about was Lucifer. And
yes, I got a chance to look at your screenplay and all that just enough to see what it was about, and I'm glad to hear you're going to talk about that. Please do.
Well, you say, and then I switch to your page, and I see a lucid look at Lucifer. We have to literally, philosophically, and theologically deconstruct certain concepts before we can understand them. This is a process which we look beneath and beyond the commonly assumed folklore. Some readers may think that Lucifer is a clearly designated biblical character, the same as Satan. Lucifer is the fallen angel in the Bible in the book of Genesis, of course. Is that right? No, on all counts. The word Lucifer appears only once in the Bible in Isaiah 14:12, translating the Hebrew word which meant shining one. In the Greek translation, it was rendered as light bearer. Now,
yeah, when Saint Jerome translated his Latin Vulgate Bible, that's apparently where all whatever. If there were any original manuscripts of the so-called New Testament, they were all destroyed after that. But he did that in the late 300s, and he translated it into the Latin as Lucifer, and he also capitalized the word. And many people say that I'm not a Latin translator, I did take Latin in university, but that it's not, Lucifer is not a proper noun. It was a noun that meant light bearer. And like I say, it only appears once in the Bible. And most translations of the Bible, they don't even use the word Lucifer. They use morning star, day star, something like that.
Let me go back into the very beginning here in the story of Adam and Eve. The story goes that Adam and Eve were forbidden to eat the fruit of this tree because it would give them a knowledge of good and evil. Why would a people's God not want them to know the difference between good and evil?
Well, this gets into the whole thing about who the God of the Old Testament is, and this is where, excuse my language, I piss a lot of people off, particularly Christians, because the Old Testament is essentially a Jewish book. The book of Genesis incorporates all kinds of pagan traditions in it. And Lucifer, or the so-called devil, is not so much mentioned in the book of Genesis as the tempter is the serpent, the snake. But in all other world religions, of course, a snake, a serpent is a symbol of wisdom. So we have lots of conflicts in the Bible. The Old Testament's a horribly violent book. There's all kind, and the so-called God of the Old Testament, the so-called I am, Yahweh in the Hebrew, wherever you want to put your Hebrew vowels in to pronounce it, is the tribal God. He was the tribal God of the Jews who were a tribe in Egypt back in the old days. He didn't want to be the God of anyone else. And he said, your so-called Ten Commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me. What does that imply? There might be other gods, seems like. Well, I won't ramble on about all of that. But I'm interested in your screenplay using the character of Lucifer
in my screenplay. Now, keep in mind that this is fiction, and I actually started it and wrote it over 40 years ago. And the character Lucifer was the co-captain, first mate, whatever you want to call him, of the Tetragrammaton Lord, who was the captain of one of 6 Earth ships built by the Atlantean civilization to survive the passing of a rogue planet, Planet X, that I wrote about over 40 years ago before I ever heard of Planet X. And they, as they're preparing to leave, the meteors are showering down, and the captain's wife is killed, and he becomes very upset. And he is threatened. He's told by his friend Lucifer, his first mate, that he needs to get it together, pull himself together, that the whole world is depending on them. And he is the captain of the Earth ship Heaven, basically a UFO, what we would call a UFO today. There were other ones, the Olympus, and all based on legends of gods on Earth. And Lucifer is thrown out of the Earthship Heaven, sent down to the hell that is Earth at that point in time, and survives for thousands of years. And the god of the Earthship Heaven basically goes insane and starts, instead of trying to help the people, wants to enslave the people, because they've always been used as slaves by the Atlanteans for thousands of years. And then you transfer him into today's world, put him on a motorcycle, and you got my character. But
well, like that. I did not get to read your entire screenplay, but I only looked at it this morning, but I saw enough. I hope that gets to be a movie. I really do.
Well, it's planned for a movie. It's certainly planned for a movie. It's planned for a book. And, because basically I don't think things are as they stand. I've been reporting all this week, Harrell, on the murder by police of the Iraqi veteran who simply was walking down the hallway to see who was on his front yard with a gun and was shot 60 times. I just met with the Oath Keepers. This is all happening right now. But if we don't learn, and the guest I had on yesterday, Jesse Ventura, said if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to look back in history and see. I believe the Catholic Church at the Council of Nicaea, what was that, 231 AD?
Right in there, yes, I believe so.
Yeah, they kicked Jesus, they promoted Jesus up to God himself, because they didn't want men like you and I aspiring to be the kind of man he was, thinking for himself, trying to tell people, you can do what I do and more. God is inside you. God is what you call your soul. God, you've got a direct communication, and you don't really need these Bible thumpers in these religions. You read the Bible, you learn from it. And
well, see, you asked me earlier what is Gnosticism. I think you just told me what it was, what it is. It's the belief that God is within us, and not like you don't have to go through a priest or a rabbi or an imam, a mullah, a preacher. You don't have to go through anybody. That is there for all of us. That is the gnosis, the wisdom that is revealed to those who want to know it.
I've got one religious nut on my chat room right now. What are you're denying Jesus' divinity? I don't think so. And that's a reaction I get from most Christians. I'm an old biker. As far as I'm concerned, they can kiss my ass. They want to get down on their knees, pray. You want to be a Muslim, you want to get down on your knees, stick your nose in the dirt, your ass up in there. No problem. Just don't expect me to get down on my knees beside you. And I ain't gonna bang my head on that wailing wall either.
Exactly. I'm even glad to be on your program. I'm essentially, I formerly was in the Christian religion, since Christian religion. I no longer do. I basically don't believe it's really appropriate for the Indo-European people, our folk. I don't really believe it's appropriate. I don't necessarily have a replacement for it or anything, but I read the religious texts of ancient India, which inspire me greatly.
You know, it's supposed to inspire. I mean, we've got 4,000 years of history in that Bible. It may not be all exactly what we think it is.
Well, it's not, and essentially I won't diverge too much here, but we had the Masoretic rabbis, and after Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 A.D. by the Romans and all of that, Judaism moved into the West, and the Masoretic rabbis began their translation of the Bible, trying to preserve the text. And essentially, when they were doing this was a good project, of course, but they not only preserved them, they rewrote, created them exactly like they wanted them to read. So that's the Old Testament.
One of the things that I've asked, 2,000 years ago, and I've got it on the cover of my book, I talk about some of the stuff in the Bible and there as Christian identity, because Christian identity suddenly jumped into the forefront here with the Homeland Security assessment. They lumped the Christian identity in with the militias. Of course, I helped start the militias.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to Christian identity beliefs, but I respect the people that do, and they have some very good radio programs. They have some very good publications. But I just don't agree with them about their theology. But there's nothing wrong with that. I don't agree with a lot of things.
That's right. Our Constitution gives us the right to worship as we please. So if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, knock yourself out. Just don't intrude on the rights of others. I'm not going to get down on my knees with you. That's all. That's freedom. That's free. Anything else is a police state. Anything else is a theology trying to impose their beliefs on you. That's tyranny. Whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it religion, fine. It's called tyranny.
Well, I'm glad you came back to that, because I passed over that earlier. I wanted to say when we first started talking about religion that any religion, not just mine or yours or anybody else, every religion is a method of mind control, basically, when you come right down to it. And the ruling powers that be, since cave days, have realized this and used this. The ones who thought to be communicating with whatever deities that they believed in were used by the powers that be, and they still are, of course, as you very well know.
So, what do we do? I mean, this is such. I mean, most people cannot even comprehend how they are being controlled. I mean, I've told people, you watch TV, they don't call it programming for nothing. We've advanced for a while. 2,000 years ago, let's say 3,000 years ago, they wrote about the mark of the beast. Now, I've had commercials for the mark of the beast. They call it Health Link up on my site. How did they know 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, that we would have that kind of technology today? For 2,000 years, it hadn't been feasible.
It seems like they did know to some degree about advanced technology. I don't quite know how they did, but it certainly seems that we did. And also, we won't get off into archaeology, but all kind of odd artifacts have been found here and there about the world that look like batteries or different things. And there's now even theories that the Great Pyramid had some electrical devices in it. That's all very interesting. We don't know, but I think they did have a knowledge of our electronic era that some people were able to look ahead and see. see that.
It's a double-edged sword. You know, one of the answers for what I've been doing, part of this, and this is spoken of in the protocols of the Elder Zion, is our terrible power of the purse. And our founding fathers, who fought the first New World Order of their day, warned us, if you allow a private bank to issue your money, the banks and the corporations that spring up around them, and we're talking about Radion, we're talking about Ling Temco Vault, we're talking about General Dynamics, we're talking about these weapons producers, we're talking about the pharmaceutical producers, we're talking about we got tons and tons of atomic bombs sitting around in a basement over there in Albuquerque. Who made those? Why do we keep building? Why do we keep building? Why do we keep building them? Why do we keep building nuclear power plants? When if anybody was really for the independence and the freedom of the people, they'd give them all a wind generator, a solar unit for the roof, and a garden for the backyard, and walk away and leave them alone. That's what I call liberty villages. The foundation of every civilization. The foundation of every civilization, Harold, according to one of our writers, one of the publishers, Richard Kelly Hoskins, that the foundation of every civilization was the self-sufficient family farm. Why is, on the 9th plank on the Communist Manifesto, why is corporate farms there? Government control of agriculture, government control of education.
Well, yes, everything is centralized control. We have nothing but, and that's been going on for centuries. It's just now it's come into full being that, yes, they don't want you to have any kind of family farm. They don't want you to sell any of the products off of it. They want to restrict completely what we're doing as free people, it certainly seems like.
The strategy for the New World Order is divide and conquer, compartmentalize, regionalize, instead of, and this is all opposed. I say they've advanced the art of slavery to the point that the slave don't know they're slaves.
Well, that's the most ideal thing, is to have it presented in such a way that the slaves don't notice they're enslaved. The people think they're free, and they're really not. Start talking about certain topics, as you and I well know, and you find out how free you are in some degrees. You're not very free. We're lucky that we still have the right to talk about the things we're talking about on the radio today and all of that, but we must realize that certainly not everyone likes that, and efforts are already being made to suppress internet, all kinds of things that we don't even, that we must not allow to happen.
We've talked about that yesterday in Jesse Ventura's book. Jesse Ventura was on with you yesterday, and in page 42, they talk about Homeland Cyber Security Agreement with the Pentagon. So we got Homeland Security. What they've done is they've made us, and I've covered this on my website pretty well. They started out saying, "Oh, Clay Douglas, he started the militias." Well, I did, but what they didn't tell you is that I started it in the governor's office. We worked for the governor. What part of the Second Amendment don't you folks understand? But I've been demonized ever since. A lot of it, they understand it quite well. They understand they must defeat it. That's the main thing they understand. Yes. All right, hold on just a second. Dr. Harrell Rhome is my guest today, and